Coming to you from deep inside the bowels of a great big empty. Get ready for another episode of The Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
And that was Golden Glenn, the official announcer of the Home Defense Show, and I'm your host, Skip Coryell, author of 22 books, Marine Corps veteran, founder of the Second Amendment March, proud father of 7, grandfather to 20 and counting, and as a special bonus, I'm also madly in love with my own wife. My priorities in life are God, family, and country, in that order, and I hereby promise to never compromise in my convictions. I may go broke, but I'll never go woke. All right, and joining me today is a Krav Maga personal defense instructor, Steve Sulze. Welcome to the Home Defense Show.
Yeah, thank you for having me back.
Well, before we launch into the article, just give us about 30-second bio about your business and what you do, Steve.
Yeah, sure. I'm Steve Sulze. I own Extreme Krav Maga and Fitness in St. Louis. I also have a firearms training company called Extreme Tactical Defense. And basically, we're going on our 18th, 19th year in business. And what got me into this originally was just growing up, being bullied out of shape. And I found mixed martial arts, when I was like 22 years old. And Krav Maga specifically, really, stuck out to me because you learn punches, kicks, knees, elbows, ground fighting, weapons defenses. And, as I've trained and continued to train through the years, got the passion of being able to help other people gain confidence, self-esteem, and, become a better version of themselves through that kind of leadership and guidance and personal development on not only just on the mats, but also off the mats. Because, I know that, training in Krav Maga and martial arts and jiu-jitsu and everything has helped me, not just with my fighting skills, but also, becoming more financially sound, becoming better, in my relationships with friends and family, and making better business decisions. And we want to help our students do that exact same thing.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's go ahead and let's go over this article now. It's out of Broward County in Florida. It says 3 thieves on the loose after a Broward County man was beaten and robbed in his driveway after a trip to the bank. A man is speaking out after a surveillance video showed him getting beaten during a robbery in his own driveway in West Park on Monday. Nelson Villa is battered and bruised, pointing out a fat lip, a couple of bumps and scrapes. The video shows him pulling into his home from a trip to the bank when an SUV pulls up seconds later. 3 men get out of the car and 2 of them distract Villa while the third person goes to the passenger's door, detectives say. While that happened, a noise got Villa's attention, but it was too late. Quote, I looked and he ran. When he ran, I saw that he got something, he said. Villa ran after that third man as he raced to his getaway car. He says that when he realized he couldn't catch him or get his $2,100 back, he tried to get a picture of the license plate with his phone. That's when surveillance video shows one of the other thieves knocking him to the ground in the road right in front of his home. Villa says he is convinced he was targeted at the bank. The detective investigating this case also believes that it was a targeted incident. All right, that's those are the facts that we know about it. What's your initial take on this, Steve?
What's interesting is, so I just bought a new truck a couple weeks ago, and so I had to go to the bank and get $15,000 out in cash
Hmm.
for my down payment. And I literally was thinking as I'm walking out, I'm like, what if I was a old woman? What if I was a, just underweight, non-aware person?
Yeah.
And anybody could just run up. I'm obviously, like, you could see I had, envelopes in my hand, and I'm like, they could just come bum rush me, put a weapon, whatever. And was just thinking of like how many times that probably happens every single day at, I mean, millions of banks across the country. And I bet you most people are none the wiser, of course. So my protocol, when I pulled up, I sat in the parking lot, scoped out the vehicles, see who's in the vehicles, see who went in, see who went out. There was actually quite a few people in the lobby at the time when I pulled up. So I waited a few minutes, waited for a few people to leave. Went in, of course, while I'm in line, more people are piling in, did my business, moving some money around, got my cash out. And then as I walked out, I kind of waited at the door, just kind of looked outside, looked around, peeked around the lobby. Obviously, while I'm waiting in line, I'm making eye contact with people who are in lines, kind of just scoping them out, just like I would any other business. Who's a threat, who's a potential, someone in case something happens. Just normal things that I do of having awareness, no matter where I go out in public. And then, of course, obviously, as I exit, I'm heading straight to my car, looking around. Is there anybody else sitting in a vehicle, or are there any bystanders, anything like that? And as soon as I get in the car, lock the doors, I sit there for a few minutes, same, or a few seconds, same thing, kind of just scoping things out. And then as I leave, making sure that there's no vehicles following me. And that's kind of, again, a protocol that I typically would do, honestly, no matter where I'm at. Just being aware. And I feel like in a situation like this, it all comes down to tactics. Are you aware of your surroundings? And it's the buzzword that gets thrown around everywhere. Situational awareness, situational awareness. But what specifically is situational awareness? And I have a lecture, and we have, training that we do around this, but it's really like a lifelong skill. And how I explain it is that, there's normal conditions, and then when something abnormal happens, that is a disruption. But the problem is, if you don't know what those abnormalities are, meaning that you don't recognize them. An abnormality could be a loud noise, a different sound, right? So like if the normal sound at 9 a.m. is birds chirping, but then all of a sudden there's a loud bang. Okay, that's an abnormality. I need to investigate what that is. But what most people do is they just go about their day, because either A, they didn't even hear it, hear or see the abnormal thing happening, or they just ignore it and just have kind of that bias of, oh, it doesn't concern me, I'm just going to go about my day. And those are
Yeah.
the two problems that I believe are why people become victims more times than not. Is if you just did a little bit of follow-up or investigation on these things that you see or you hear that just don't make sense, um, then you're able to potentially remove yourself from situations or prevent situations. And I talk about this a lot in active shooter training, what we call pre-incident indicators. And this goes for not just active shooter, but for any type of self-defense situation where you find yourself, is you got to know what these indicators are, what people are doing, their body language, their tonalities, all there's like 260 of these documented. We typically go over the basic like 15 of them, and then you got to practice them, right? You got to practice them, role play them, learn to recognize them, and then look for them, and then have training of some sort to obviously respond accordingly when these things happen.
Yeah. Yeah, Steve, that is all good stuff. Um, I have a side job that I do working private security, right? And I go all over. I'll work in like, stores. Last weekend I was working at a bank, and it was really interesting. I'd never worked private security at a bank before, but it was interesting to watch the customers. They go up to the counter, they get out their money. It's like they talk loud enough so that I can hear them say, "Yes, I'd like to withdraw $4,000," right? And then they get it, and they put it in one of those little money envelopes for them. And then as they're walking out, their head is down, and they have the money out, and they're counting the money as they walk out
As they
into the
walk out the
parking
door.
lot.
Yep.
And it's like, hey, put a sign on your back that says victim here, right?
Correct. Yep.
But I was just amazed. People just don't believe that anything bad is ever going to happen to them until it happens, and then it's too late.
Correct. Yeah. And that's really the definition of confirmation bias, is that, they're going to fit whatever they can around that it's not really happening, of what the worst situation could be. They're going to say, "Oh, that loud noise, that was a car door closing, that was a book dropping, that was a door slamming. That's not a gunshot." Their brain tries to convince themselves that it's everything but what it actually is. And the problem with that is that it buys up very valuable time that you could be
Yeah.
doing something to protect yourself. And I always say, like, I do not live my life paranoid at all. I just am aware. I know when I'm, again, we talk about this on a lot of these episodes, positioning yourself in the restaurant or a conference room, positioning yourself in a strategic spot. Don't be in the middle, where the bottleneck's going to happen. Try to position yourself by a door or an exit or an entry point, not only so that you can be first to potentially act, but you can be first to get away. And you're going to
Hmm.
potentially be first to see what's happening. Even something as simple, I brought this up, one of the last situational awareness trainings I taught was I taught people when you roll up to a stop sign or a stoplight to make sure you can see the tires of the car that's in front of you. Don't get so close to where, your bumper's basically touching their bumper. And majority of the class was like, well, why? Why does that matter? And it's like, well, if you ever had to get away, in not necessarily even something self-defense wise, but if someone's coming in, super fast behind you and is going to rear end you, and maybe you had the ability to see that in the rearview mirror early before they hit you, you could drive, potentially get out of the way. And I've actually had to have this happen not only in a car before, but also on a motorcycle where I've almost been rear-ended, twice. And luckily I had enough space to get out of the way, or I would have been rear-ended. On the motorcycle, I would have been majorly hurt had I not seen it. And then, but I wouldn't have, you would not only would have not been able to do that, I wouldn't have seen it had I not been paying attention to my surroundings. So
Yeah.
while I'm at the stoplight or the stop sign, and I always swear by motorcycle riders, I feel like, if you ride a motorcycle long enough, you develop really good situational awareness. Because, we're paying attention to all of these, 2 and 3 ton vehicles that can kill us in an instance, and the people that are inside them, aren't going to feel anything. People don't watch out for motorcyclists, and so and I don't ride anymore, but I rode for 25 years, and I've had a motorcycle since I was 18, and I'm looking in rearview mirrors, I'm looking in people's side mirrors, I'm trying to make eye contact with them through their mirror to make sure they see me, and then I'm always positioning myself to be away from people, whether I have to speed up and get away from you or I got to slow down and get away from you. I don't want to be around you. I want to make sure that I have enough bubble around me to react if I need to. And I always talk about this in my awareness classes, how riding a motorcycle has helped me, I feel, develop good situational awareness in addition to my self-defense training.
Yeah. Well, this particular guy, he lost $2,100, but let's say he was a little bit more like you and I, and he noticed that someone was following him. What should the average person do in that scenario?
Yeah, that's a scary situation. Um, and if you again, even us with that have training, we're still going to have a little bit of confirmation bias. Like, is that red card? Do they live on my
Yeah.
street, or do I know this guy, or whatever? So we're going to have a little bit of that, but the difference is that we don't accept that we're like, no, we're going to continue to investigate, and or we're going to do something to confirm it one way or the other. So me personally, depending on distance, of where I could go back into the building, I could get in my car. It sounds like he was already at home. Again, just building that into your repertoire when you pull into your driveway or you pull into your garage, having a look around, and as always, you can take all the precautionary steps, and bad things can still happen. But staying in your vehicle if you would have noticed, obviously calling 911. If you had some type of defensive tool, firearm, mace, taser, knife, baton, that he could stage while he was in his vehicle, to where if they started pounding on the car, okay, well, now their level of force just changed. It's not turning into just potential robbery anymore. Now they're wanting to potentially cause violence. So now you may be in fear for your life to have to use a higher level of force. So you're no longer protecting property at that point because they're breaking entry. And then depending on your state,
Yeah.
castle doctrine, potentially kicks in, where if he's in his car, in his driveway, or in his garage, the game changes a little bit because they're now trying to enter his domain. So of course, always using your normal channels, creating awareness, honking your horn if there's people outside or there's people around trying to draw some type of attention. If his car is still on, peel out, get the heck out of there.
Yeah.
Drive to a police station. Depending, I don't know all the context of like where he was exactly. It sounds like he was kind of caught off guard getting out of his car. Luckily, doesn't sound like anything, bad happened besides his money getting stolen. I wouldn't recommend chasing after your attacker. It sounds like he started to chase after him for a minute. That can
Mhm.
definitely go south. And then also, you become a willing participant at that time, and you can't claim self-defense if that guy were to stop. And then, and an altercation starts to happen, things could get worse for that person.
Well, it's 3 against 1.
Hmm.
And, I watched the video. He wasn't a young man. He looked like he was probably, I don't know, maybe around 50 years old. But I was a little surprised when, he got out of his car and then he was taking a picture of the license plate or trying to on his phone. I was surprised when one of the criminals just got out and, started beating the crap out of him. I
Hmm.
I thought, yeah, I guess you can't underestimate or assume that the criminal isn't going to be violent.
Right.
I would have thought, oh, he probably should just drive away, that when he gets away. But you can't assume that they're non-violent.
And that's one of those tough situations where let's say that the innocent guy, once they took the money, let's say he did draw his weapon because you don't know what's coming next. And
Yeah,
and and then he's pointing it, fingers indexed, and he's ordering them, to get away, leave him alone, drive off, give me my money back, whatever, and what could be looked at is that he brandished a firearm potentially illegally because if that were to go to court, they're going to say, well, how did these guys threaten you? And they weren't using any use of force and this and that. And it's like, and as we know, by the time that use of force is required, for the average person, it's typically too late for them to respond.
yeah,
So, that's one of the situations that drives me crazy in the laws is it's always, well, they didn't do anything. Yeah, but you don't know that they weren't going to do anything because statistically they do. They do
hmm
attack. They do cause violence. And and it's that whole common sense situation that the innocent person now potentially has to think twice about engaging them, with a higher force option to protect themselves if things get worse because they could potentially get in trouble. So that's another frustrating aspect of these types of situations where, as the good guy, we shouldn't have to think twice to defend ourselves.
yeah. Yeah, I agree. Especially in the big cities, it's getting frustrating. But that was a good, thorough analysis. I appreciate that, Steve. We're out of time, but before you go, tell people where they can go to find out more about what you do.
Yeah, check us out online, guys. www.xkmstl.com for our Krav Maga website. We do travel all across the country. We can run seminars, active shooter trainings, corporate events, team building, whatever you guys are interested in. We have our team that goes around, including myself. So if there's something that, at a martial arts school or a business or a church that you guys would like to get introduced to our training, reach out and contact us. If you're local in the St. Louis area, we'd love to have you in for a free evaluation lesson.
All right. Well, thank you very much for being on Home Defense Show today, Steve. Appreciate it
No
very
problem.
much.
Thank you.
All right, folks, that about wraps it up for this week's show. I've had a good time, and I hope you have too. Please don't forget to thank our sponsors, Center Shot Indoor Gun Range at centershotgunrange.com, shootingclasses.com to help you find the right trainer for your needs, the United States Concealed Carry Association. For all your self-defense needs, go to uscca.com. All right, I've written 20 plus books, and they're all available on Amazon.com in paperback, ebook, and audiobook. This week, check out my book, Sunrise Reflections, Finding Hope in Hard Times. I think you'll like it. And also check out the Home Defense Show videos on rumble.com. And if you want training from me in person, then check out Midwest Tactical Training at shootingclasses.com. Please join us again next week for all your home defense needs. In the meantime, God bless and stay safe.
Thank you for joining us this week on The Home Defense Show. Now, get out there and protect the ones you love. We'll see you next week with more of the best.
Bye-bye, boys!
Have fun storming the castle!
Firearms training should be easy. Instructors can focus on teaching and not worry about all the complex paperwork and management behind the scenes. Just pull the trigger and let us do the administrative work. Welcome to shootingclasses.com.
At Centershot Gun Range, we are passionate about training. Don't know where to start? We offer a 1-hour new shooter seminar to introduce you to the world of firearms and help you find training opportunities specific to you. Concealed carry, home defense, firearm safety, AR-15, private one-on-one training, custom training, or maybe you're on a security team looking to protect your church or business. We even offer weekday morning and evening classes. Centershot Gun Range has you covered. Start your journey at CentershotGunRange.com.
Firearms training should be easy. Instructors can focus on teaching and not worry about all the complex paperwork and management behind the scenes. Just pull the trigger and let us do the administrative work. Welcome to shootingclasses.com.
Attention business owners. Are you leaving your website open to security issues and hacking due to a lack of maintenance or overseas outsourcing? Don't let that happen to your business. Choose experienced U.S.-based website developers that can customize your website to fit your specific needs. Appletree MediaWorks has been growing businesses online since 2009. With over 80 years of combined experience, their team conducts constant research and development to keep up with ever-changing online threats. Your website deserves the best protection available. Call Appletree MediaWorks today at 877-977-1364 to keep your website secure and grow your business online. Or visit appletree.media.
Avoid danger, save lives, and keep your loved ones safe. If this sounds good to you, you sound good to me. And I'd like to help you do those things. Avoid danger, save lives, and keep your loved ones safe. If you're looking for more excitement in your life, we have nothing to offer you. But if you are a thoughtful, responsible, nonviolent man or woman, we'd love to teach you what to do if something crazy happens. More importantly, we'd like to teach you what not to do. We currently have over 500,000 members. They are doctors and single moms and firemen and grandmothers and veterans and Democrats and Republicans and members of every faith. But the one thing they all have in common is that they know exactly what to do if something crazy happens. When you're with one of our members, you are safe. Our members know how to de-escalate situations. They know how to calm things down. We are the United States Concealed Carry Association. See what we're all about at usconcealedcarry.com.
Discover the little-known backstory of the U.S. Concealed Carry Association at usconcealedcarry.com.